the central bank of Israel should sell all the mountains of dollars that it's buying and keeping, okay? Because well, what are we trying to do? Save the American economy? We don't need the Americans. We don't need the Americans. Are when I heard that the Gerald Ford carrier is on its way, I said I'm more afraid of the Gerald Ford than Hamas. I mean, the best deal would have been stop any kind of American so-called aid to Israel. I can explain it in detail what I just said. There is a fundamental difference between Israel and America. Israel, not like the rest of the whole world almost, having babies. The Israeli mothers having babies.
If I had kids in the army, I would tell them to refuse orders. I would rather them go to prison. I would let them do what they wanted to do. I'm not going to force them, but I would say don't risk your life for this. It's not worth it. Arm yourself, protect your own city, protect your family, but don't go into Gaza and kill yourselves because there's no goal. Hey guys, Ralph here from the Endgame Investor, and today I have an old friend, an old neighbor, Moshe Feiglin, who is the former vice speaker of the Knesset of Israel. He knows Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, personally. If you have any questions for Bibi, you can ask him and maybe he'll pass it along. Moshe Feiglin has been in Israel's politics since you could say 1995, but not really 1995, let's say 2001, 2002, something like that. And you got pretty high up in the power structure until you got a little bit too much influence, and then they pushed you down. And it's because, in my opinion, you have the most libertarian ideas in Israel. There isn't anybody in Israeli politics that understands economics or money fully, but you're the closest one. And we're going to talk about, first of all, what's going on in Israel, what isn't going on in Israel, what Israel needs to do to win this war, and also how money is connected to it, because it is, as long as you can keep inflating the money supply and buying more stuff, then a government doesn't feel as pressured that they have to win. They could just keep the war going and keep the money coming from, the center of the empire, and nothing ever changes and nothing ever gets fixed. So if you cut off the money, then it forces the government to actually try to win the war. That's what I think. But we'll start out with this question, which is a very basic one, and that is, what happened on October 7th on Simchat Torah? What could have possibly gone wrong that the entire army didn't do anything for 7 to 8 hours as people were being massacred and slaughtered and raped and killed? Was this a let it happen on purpose to some degree? Did somebody know something and not do anything because they thought it would be smaller? What do you think actually happened here, and how is this possible?
Okay, first, hello, Rafi. It's nice to see you and to speak with you. Okay, look, I think the answer to this question is very, very simple. What happened is that Hamas kept their promise. They promised to do exactly that. And by the way, they keep on promising to do more. They always said that the land belongs to them and they're going to take it back. And their violence and horrific ways to do it is not something new as well. So nothing here should be surprising. We decided not to listen. We decided that they're afraid from us for another 15 years. We told ourselves stories, but then reality hit us. So there's no question here. The question is, how come we did not listen? No, not how come they fooled us. If they would fool us, I understand the question, but they didn't. They prepared. They said what they're going to do, and they did it on full scale. Now, the question why we were not prepared. So Some people will say that, there was some kind of a scam over here, betrayed of somebody, treason, or I don't know what. Maybe they'll find something in the future. But I think where you can find a simple answer, you should stick to it first. And the simple answer is that when you stick to to the wrong concept, you get the same results. What happened with the between French and Germany in World War II? I mean, the French built the Maginot Line, okay, and they were sure that they safe behind it. Okay, so they got so deep into the concept that even when they saw the German tanks in the forests, in the Belgian forests, they decided not to attack them. They could finish the war over there. Okay. Or the story with Israel, with the Bar-Lev line on the Suez Canal. It's the same story, where it's basically the same story of the emperor in new clothes. You telling yourself a story that the king is dressed, and it doesn't matter that you can see his tuchas, excuse me. you think you'll decide he's wearing beautiful dress. That's and it doesn't matter how good your technology is, and everybody and all your people tells you, look what we see, look what no, you're wrong. They just trying to fool us and so on. If you don't want to see, you won't see.
Well, it's like everyone in America is saying Biden is fine and his brain is working perfectly and he's everything's okay there, nothing to see. But yeah, if the emperor is naked, it's definitely in the United States, the emperor is not only naked, he's brain dead, in the most literal sense. But I guess on the other hand, he's the perfect leader for our times, because it looks like the world is becoming increasingly brain dead. I don't have any other word for it. It just seems like nothing makes any sense anymore. And it's been this way since 2020, really. And I'm talking more off the cuff here and trying to link in what happened here on October 7th, with what happened in the world in 2020 and with Corona and the crazy way everyone was acting. Israel had a lot to do with that, because we were the first to jump into the whole thing without thinking, without testing adequately. And then we were pressured into it, and people followed our example, as they always do, because we're the Jewish people and we lead. So we can either lead the world to heaven or we can lead the world to hell. And I'm thinking throughout 2020 and 2021, we were leading the world to hell.
And that's what's happening now with the war we started now, because you're absolutely right. We can lead the world to heaven or to hell, and the whole world was waiting for us to fight the evil, because that's our duty in history. That's what God created his chosen nation for, to show and spread the good means also to be able to fight the bad. If you only stick to nice ideas, but you cannot fight the bad, then your nice ideas are irrelevant. And unfortunately, we're not destroying the evil. That's not what we're doing. And by the way, in reality, right after the warriors, I don't call them terrorists, because they're fighting with uniform and everything. So right after them came the civilians and continue the death march and rape and slaughter and whatever. Kids, elder people, everybody. Israel will annex the land completely, because it belongs to the Jewish people for the last 3,000 years, since we got the promised land from God. The Gaza Strip is part of the land of Israel, and rebuild Gaza as a Jewish city. and built the whole Gaza Strip as part of the Negev. It's the seashore, it's the western seashore of the Negev. That's what it is. That's what it really is.
So
So this is victory, nothing less than that. And what we see today is not even getting near. Let's just imagine that the British would said the Churchill will say that we don't want to we don't have a war against Germany. We have a war just against the Luftwaffe or just against the Nazi leaders. Would they win the war? Of course not.
I was talking to somebody here a few days after the war broke out, and I was saying like, well, it seems like we're waking up a little bit, very, very slightly, and we're sort of moving as a nation, but we're going to go back to sleep in a few days. I feel it. What do you think it would actually take for us to really wake up for real? And he said to me, well, it would probably be something like an attack that kills 100, 200,000 people. And then we would say, okay, that's enough. And so I wanted to take this back in time. Really, the last war that Israel won, like really won, and even then it wasn't complete. It was 1967, the 6 Day War, specifically Dafka, when we had no help from the United States, and you were like 5 years old at the time, 6 years old, something like that. And what was the feeling back then? I imagine it was like, I think maybe we're all going to get killed, we're all going to die, and it was an existential battle, and if we don't fight, then we could all get killed. And until we have that feeling again, that really this is a fight for our existence, we're not going to win. And even if we do have that feeling, then America is not going to be helping us at that point. And then what happens practically? We're going to run out of weapons. I mean, that's what the fearmongers say. You can't kick America out because then we won't have weapons and then we'll definitely die. So how do you respond to that?
Well, my memories as a child are not memories of fear at all. People were united. People prepared themselves very serious. I remember people dug shelters outside of our home with shovels. There was tremendous trust in the leadership, in the leadership, and the Israeli leadership led to a victory. They wanted to win. They started the war. They didn't wait to get hit and then have some kind of legitimacy to act. They act first. And it was like a spring that suddenly, blew out and wiped out everything around it. And that's what we don't have. We don't need the Americans. We don't need the Americans. When I heard that the Gerald Ford carrier is on its way, I said I'm more afraid of the Gerald Ford than Hamas. And this is exactly what happened. If Benjamin Netanyahu would have been the prime minister then in '67, we would not go to a war, and Israel would not exist today. Simple as that. What he would have done is try to cut some kind of a deal with the Americans, and give them basically the authority to do whatever they want with us. And today, 50 years later, not 50, what is it already today? Since '67.
56 years.
56 later, would not be Israel anymore. Definitely not a sovereign Israel. And this is the direction where Netanyahu is taking it today.
You know Netanyahu personally, or at least some level personally. I wouldn't say you're like best friends with the guy, but you've met him, you know him. Does he believe in God?
Bibi believes in Bibi. Somebody once asked me, is he socialist or free market, or what's his ideology? Netanyahu's ideology is Netanyahu, basically. Okay, so I don't think it matters anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. It's going nowhere with him. That's why I decided to go back on a path of leadership. Everything I tried in Likud, doing together with him at the 7th of October, lost its meaning. Okay, when the guy proved that even at a point like that, he cannot unite the nation behind him and simply change the rules, change the rules completely after horrors like that. If you don't change the rules, you're inviting worse to come. I mean, the duty of a leader is, first of all, protect its nation. Now, the whole world saw what they did to us. The worst pogrom ever in Jewish history inside the sovereign Israel. Worse pogrom than the Kristallnacht. Worse than the Kristallnacht. Definitely than Kishinev or whatever we knew in the past. With all the ingredients, akol kalul, as they say, everything inside. And some new inventions also. So after that, he's starting to wait 3 weeks and then decide what's going to be the goal of the war, and then stop the water and start again, and now you're sending them fuel so they can have air in the tunnels. On one hand, you're giving all the supplies to your enemy, and on the other hand, you're sending our troops to fight them. What's going on here? What is going on here? This is not how you fight when you want to win the war. It took us 2 days to take over the whole Gaza Strip in 1956 and in 1967, and now it's almost 3 months.
And what about
instead of that, you're running a double and triple game with the Americans, with Hamas, and suddenly the goal of the war is not the victory but the hostages. This is not leadership. This is politics.
What about the hostages? What are they part of the cheshbon? Are they part of the equation at all, or are they just, do we consider them already dead and do what we have to do?
At the first days of the war, first weeks even of the war, everybody understood that the first goal should be total defeat of Hamas, total victory, and only the second goal is the hostages. Suddenly it replaced. It changed. So okay, if you decide that the first goal of the war is release the hostages, which is of course very nice and very important, of course, but it has a meaning. The meaning is you're not going to win. The meaning is he's going to win. Hamas is going to win, and do not forget that all the leadership of Hamas today, from Sinwar bottom, were released from Israeli prisoner for one hostages, Gilad Shalit, 12 years ago, by Netanyahu, by the way. So what are we going to create now for releasing over 200 hostages? So a real true leader should think of the future hostages. But when you do only the existing political calculation, you don't think as a leader. You don't look straight to your people's eye like Churchill and says, blood, I can only promise you blood, sweat, and tears. So we have a very serious problem with the leadership of Israel, and this is what we should work on, Rafi. Back to the concept of Jewish leadership. Remember,
Yeah.
Everything we spoke about maybe 30 years ago when we started the movement, Jewish leadership become crucial for the existence of Israel. It's not a theoretic thoughts anymore. The concept of turning Israel from Zionism of existence, Tzionut shel Kiyum, to Zionism of a goal, Tzionut shel Yaud.
Mhm.
These ideas that we came out and started to build Jewish leadership then became now concepts and ideas that Israel will not survive without them. We need leadership that lead according to the Jewish views, according to the Jewish concept, going to the Jewish message. We can't find it anywhere else.
Right. And if we don't act like Jews, people are going to hate us, and that's what we're seeing now.
Yeah.
I would say, look, we have this empty leadership of Netanyahu and everyone who surrounds him. There's not a single person in the government I would trust, not one of them. And they're being controlled by America, but America is clearly teetering and it's about to fall over. I don't know exactly when, but something's going to happen, some kind of financial catastrophe, and the dollars are going to stop coming, and the dollar is going to die. I don't see Israel getting out because we really are the 51st state, not, completely, but enough. We are an outpost of the Roman Empire or the American Empire, which is now a global empire. But when Rome started to collapse, you saw war break out in the periphery, and war was breaking out here on America's periphery. And I don't want to be the 51st state, but that's what we are right now. And I'm sure American taxpayers don't want us to be the 51st state. But when the dollar does collapse, then America's going to be out of the picture either way. And then we're going to have to wake up here and the shekel is going to collapse too. And then kind of reorganize ourselves from the bottom up and really rely on ourselves and our tefillot, our prayers, and on God himself, because there will be nothing else. I don't see the Jewish people turning around until there really is nothing left and we're being funneled into an increasingly narrow alleyway where the only option left is going to be to act like ourselves and to trust in God because there's nothing else to do. But there's more pain coming.
Yeah, of course, we all hope that you're wrong, but I cannot say that what you say that do not make sense. There is a fundamental difference between Israel and America that makes Israel something unique and not the 51st country of the United States. And it's the fact that Israel, not like the rest of the whole world almost, having babies. The Israeli mothers having babies. Okay. Now that I'm sure has a tremendous impact on the economy. Tremendous impact.
People. You kind of need
the fact that Israel is probably the only civilization. It's like a mini civilization of its own that miraculously, having 3-4 babies per family, something that we don't have anywhere, east, west, maybe in Yemen somewhere, but I'm talking about a real country, okay? Only Israel. So combine this with the fact that, yes, we are the chosen people, we are Jews, the fact that we exist against all the rules of history, all natural history. Our existence is a miracle, historical miracle, scientific miracle, however you want to call it. Okay, we are a nation that live beyond all the rules of history. I mean, we were there with the Pharaonites, with the Babylons, with the Greeks, with the Romans, with everybody. Okay, so yeah, we saw all these empires rise and go down, and we'll see also the American rise and go down. We will be there long when history will forget the Americans. When the Americans will not be there anymore, we will be there for sure. Okay, so and yes, and I think that the fact that we having babies against all odds, against all, and Israel is a Western country like the rest of the countries. Iran don't have, Turkey don't have. It's not only the Western world; it's the whole world that stopped having babies.
Iran's population is shrinking?
Tremendously. I think less than one, even, or something around something. Turkey is 1.6 per family. Iran, I think it's even less.
I heard about South Korea and Japan. I didn't know Iran and
the whole world.
Turkey also.
Yeah. The whole world, and definitely Iran. Yes, and they aware of that, and they see it as a big problem. So yeah, we're gonna come out good and strong when the rest of the world will be collapsing. You're probably right that we're gonna go through hard times, but the people of Israel in the land of Israel, okay, will go through it because that is what we are. We're connected to God. We are connected to God. Sometimes we're forgetting our covenant, with God, so we get punished. But then we continue. It was always like that. On the other hand, those Jews that are not going to be here, or I think already feels the tremendous rise of anti-Semitism, which will remind everybody where the real place is. And there's no place for a Jew out of the land of Israel anymore. I have no doubt about it. And you see they're coming now. And Israel, in the first 2 weeks, 300,000 Israelis came back to fight the war, to just be here immediately, came back. That's amazing. And people making aliyah, and I believe that in the coming year, at least 1 million new Olim Chadashim is going to come. And hopefully we'll be able to create this new leadership that will take the state of Israel to a new path, to a victory.
There's going to have to be a catastrophe first, either there or here or both. I'm not
Makes
wishing
sense. We both hope you're wrong.
Yeah.
But it makes sense that if you don't fix at the first time, you'll have to get another slap on your face to fix it the second time.
So I wanted to talk about money for a second. So you
want a loan?
What? Oh, no. Don't want a loan. Chas v'shalom, I don't want to go into debt. I want to talk about not debt, I want money, right?
Yeah.
So I've seen the Matrix for a while, and it keeps getting clearer that at the root of all of this is the monetary system. Because what connects us to America is the dollar, it's money, it's finances. I mean, you said we have no leadership. We have people who want money, and money and power, it's all interchangeable. And the money flows from the dollar, and the dollar comes to here, and the Bank of Israel doesn't own any gold or silver. It only owns dollars and some other currencies. So basically we're tied to the American monetary system, and the money keeps coming. But it's not just the war that keeps going because there's always more aid coming in from America. There's, I mean, everything keeps deteriorating because of that. I mean, the weaker the money gets, the more bloated everything gets, the more bureaucratic everything gets because all the money goes to the government and they just, you say all the time, mashminata bureaucratia. So you continue the war because that continues the money flowing. You continue these bad schools that don't teach kids anything. I mean, I've had to, one of the hardest transitions of being a parent in this country was realizing that my kids in the Jewish state are not going to get anywhere near the Jewish education that I got, at least from the system. They're not. And what 2020 told me was that we're not going to get the health care. Doctors aren't going to care about our health like doctors cared about my health when I was a kid and my family's health when I was a kid, or a personal relationship with doctors. It's not going to happen. So the fact that this war keeps going and the Ramat Kal, the head of the Israeli army, says, "Oh, it's going to take many, many months." Great. If I had kids in the army, I would tell them to refuse orders. I'd rather them go to prison. I would let them do what they wanted to do. I'm not going to force them, but I would say don't risk your life for this. It's not worth it. Arm yourself, protect your own city, protect your family, but don't go into Gaza and kill yourselves because there's no goal. Would you be comfortable tell if you had kids that are in the army? I'm not sure if you still do, but maybe just don't waste your life on this because what's the point? You can defend the Jewish people in other ways. So what do you think about the monetary system? How would you structure it?
Okay.
And what's the solution? And how are we're gonna have to restructure this entire country, not just the army, but everything from the ground up.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. Look, the Israeli economy is not in a great position, but it's still much in greater position than the American economy. The Israeli economy, in principle, is much healthier economy, if I can use this term, than the American. I mean, the debt is much lower, and the average income, is, is quite high, and Israeli high tech, of course, is great, and so on. The reason why Israel made itself so much depend and connected to the American so-called aid. I'm saying so-called because it's not an aid.
It's a business deal. It's a business deal.
It's not even a business. It's a tremendous harm for the economy and security together. I mean, the best deal would have been stop any kind of American so-called aid to Israel. I can explain it in detail what I just said later on. However, it's economy and something else together. You see, the Zionism concept was let's create a modern state for the Jewish nation like all the rest of the nations. Let's be a nation like all the nations, Am kechol ha'amim, through the concept of the modern state, which divides I don't know, the concept that came out of the French Revolution and so on, the concept that divide between God and the geopolitics and state, between God and state. So we wanted to be a nation like all the nations. Now the problem is that, as I said before, we are the chosen people. We representing God. So how can us the Jews do what the French or the Americans did? We cannot divide between the two. We have this covenant, right? This connection between the Jewish people and God is our identity. Okay? Our ID is not our citizenship. Our ID is the Torah. Okay? So it cannot work. But however, we really, really try. And if that's what you're looking for, you need to replace God with something else that you can lean on. I mean, all our neighbors fight us all the time. All the Arab countries, the whole world, the UN condemn us all the time. Suddenly, we have this allies in America that let us be normal, give us the opportunity to be normal. They'll protect us. We have a big brother behind the ocean, at the other side of the ocean. So we can be normal. And this is something that's very fundamental in the whole psychotic way of thinking. And we became slaves to this need on the military side and on the economical side. We don't need the American military aid. Until 1967, there was no American aid. There was actually a boycott. The Americans told Ben-Gurion in 1948 if he declared the independency, there'll be no aid from America. Embargo, weapons embargo from America, and they kept that until 1967. Israel fought with Czechoslovakian ammunition and with the French ammunition in 1967, and won the wars.
So,
okay.
So if you're
and it's the same thing with the economical aid. Basically, we developed this dependency. We depended on the American aid because we needed it psychologically, and when years came, year after year, it became a real need because we got that, so we did not develop the weapons that we needed by ourselves, and so on. Economically, it's the same thing. Economically, Israel should have developed buy gold instead of collecting dollars, definitely. Don't tie the Israeli economy to the American economy in such a strong way. Yes, when the American boat will sink, it will pull us with it. So I think the Central Bank of Israel should sell all the mountains of dollars that it's buying and keeping, okay? Because well, what are we trying to do? Save the American economy? It is ridiculous.
Thing is, if they sell the dollars and let's say they buy gold, then they would have to stop printing shekels, right? The shekel supply goes in line with the dollar supply. The Bank of Israel inflates with the Fed. It's the same thing. So if they do buy gold, which they should do, then that means they have to end the war because if they don't, they're going to run out of money.
Yes, but you said a very important sentence before.
Mm-hmm.
That means that we'll have to win.
Yeah,
like we did in 67. Now we don't have to win.
mm-hmm.
We can't win. We can't win because we tied ourselves to the Americans' authority and to the American interests, and they don't want us to win because of their interests. And because we're not winning, we need a lot of ammunition to keep the war going.
So
we are dependent on the Americans to give us that. So it's like a wheel that takes us nowhere.
So let's say that we did everything that we had to do to win the war tomorrow or in the next week. Then wouldn't I mean, I don't believe it would happen, but what people would say is that immediately everyone would cut off trade ties with you. You wouldn't get any imports from any country because you'd have committed a war crime or whatever they want to say about us, and people would starve. There'd be no food, there'd be no import, whatever. But what do you say to that? People are really scared of this, and
Exactly.
from a rational standpoint, it seems like maybe that's true. I don't know.
It works exactly the opposite. When did the Americans started to give us this aid? When?
After we
When
won in
we
1967.
after we had the victory of 1967. When you show strength, when you win wars, when you show that you can stand for your basic interests, okay, then you prove that it's good to do business with you. No one want to do business with somebody weak that you don't know if he'll be here tomorrow. And if I can get from you whatever I want without sacrifice anything, why should I give you anything? Look what happened with Saudi Arabia. They were very close to cut a deal with Israel. That's it, no more. Why? Because he showed weakness. Very simple as that. We become a strategic ally to the Americans only when we did not listen to Johnson in 1967 and started that war and conquered the whole Sinai and Judea and Samaria and Jerusalem and the Golan Heights where you live right now. Okay, that's when we become an ally to the Americans. Don't
So
tell
you're
nobody Israel even bombed an American battleship named Liberty that
Mhm.
spied and after Israel in 1967, and then told the whole world that it was a mistake that we didn't know it and something like that, and paid some.
You think it was on purpose?
Of course, it was on purpose.
Huh. Okay. I never knew that you thought that. I don't have an opinion. I don't even know what
That's not
happened.
what I think. That's history.
Okay.
Um, so when you standing for your own interests and you do what you have to do and you have the basic belief on your righteousness, okay, you're right, on your moral, you're standing for what you believe is true, and you have a sense of history, and you don't think just of your political interests right now. You think of your nation, of your nation historical needs. You think of your grandchildren and your great grandchildren and the generations to come. What you're going to leave to them. That's the way you should think.
Mhm.
Our parents, my parents, your parents, the generation of 67 left us with strong country that has with a serious belief in itself, with a strong feeling of strength. What do we leave to our children? And let me tell you something. This generation is the people, the soldiers are stronger than ever. We never had the generation like that. They're way above the 67 generation. And I remember them. I remember the generation of 67. I remember the generation of 73. This generation, is the best.
Hold on. Can we
But
go a
but
little
but
deeper into
but
that?
but the leadership, we never had such a weak leadership. It's amazing. The gap is amazing.
I want to believe you, and I do in a way. I want to understand what you're seeing when you're saying this generation of Israelis is the best. Like in what way? Because what I see, especially when my kids are going to school, it seems like everyone's brain dead. It- I mean, there's some neshama there. There's some fire
Look,
still, but
I always believed in the Jews because I believe my my history and that, but when I saw what's happening in this war, I'm talking about the people, not the leaders, okay? I was amazed. I was amazed. Nothing like that. We never saw things like that before. First of all, the heroism that we saw from the rank of the simple people, the simple civilians that met the war and fought for hours and hours. Do you think the state of Israel stopped the war, stopped the wave of terrorism? No, it wasn't the state, it was the people that did that. The simple soldiers that came. There was no army that fought there. Just people took, ran and fought. I believe you would not seen anything like that anywhere in the world. Simple people ran, took whatever they had, and if they didn't, they took the weapon from a dead terrorist and fought like heroes. You never saw in the history of Israel so many heroic private fights like you saw in the 7th of October. You cannot. You need encyclopedias. You need tens of books just to fill with all the stories. A civilian, soldier, maybe a firefighter, of course, policeman or police. There's a policewoman that 3 times caught a hand grenade and throw it back at the terrorists in Ofakim.
Mm-hmm.
Stories that unbelievable. So first of all, I'm talking about the heroism, and there was plenty of heroism in all the wars. Here there was more. Okay, I'm talking about that first. Then when the army did come the next day and so on, you see the young generation, these people that you feel that they like know nothing. Suddenly the Jewish point comes out of them in a way that we never saw in the past. You see a battalion of parachuters. Usually they were very secular. Golani are the more religious ones, and you see all the soldiers saying Kriyat Shema. Most of them are total secular, asking to wear tzitzit. The most needed thing in the army today is tefillin and tzitzit. You never saw it before, never. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to go home. They want to finish the job. I never saw in all the wars in 73, 67 was very short, but in the wars before, if you would tell a soldier go to a short vacation home and come back, he would not hesitate. He will run. Here, no, we don't want to go. We have to finish the job. Something very deep happened here. Okay, everybody understand that the Hamas did what they did, not because we are Israelis, because we are Jews. They like threw our Jewish identity in our faces in the most terrible way. And the soldiers understand what they're fighting for. Deep inside, there's no questions. We got to create this leadership that will meet this level, this tremendous level of this generation. This is our duty.
What I hear from people in my circles is like, Rafi, the state of Israel is going to die. You got to get out of there. It's dangerous. Come here to Texas. I have a farm for you. You can, have some of my fruit and live in a barn somewhere. I'm like, so you're saying to me that anti-Semitism is happening everywhere. So like, leave Israel and go to the Goyim. It doesn't make any sense. So
it's like telling the fishes leave the ocean and come live with us at the seashore. Yeah.
So what I say to them is that maybe you're right. Maybe the state of Israel will die, but the Jews are not leaving. We'll make something else. And you know what? In a sense, and I don't want this to sound like treason or anything. It's not. I don't mean anything. I wish the current Israeli leadership long lives, and I don't want any violence or anything. But maybe the state of Israel does have to die in its current form, and maybe it is dying. But
Look,
But if it's dying, okay, fine. We'll be fine.
It's not a question of dying. Look at. I mean, the French people already having their fifth Republican, right? Republic, right? Something like that, I guess, will happen in Israel too. Israel will go through a fundamental change, but our existence is secure by this covenant. No one will be able to demolish us, to wipe us out.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you cannot wipe out God. You cannot wipe out the Jews. You can hit them hard if they forget who they are, but you cannot win against this nation. Okay, this is the rule of history.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we're going to win this too. We're going to win this too. Definitely, and I'm very optimistic because besides that simple fact, I see the tremendous power by the young generation that we have today in Israel. So the line of Judea will rise, if I said it right. Okay, Gur al Yehuda, as they say, will rise.
This week's parsha.
And yes, and our King David is alive. David Melech Israel Chai v'Kayam. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. We are a nation that passed some bad things during almost 4,000 years of existence, and survive it, and we'll survive that too. And we will be there when Texas will not. Let me tell you, America will not exist for long, and like the rest of the empires disappeared, the American empire is on its way out of history as well. The Jewish sovereignty in their promised land will be there forever. And I'll tell you a short story, Rafi. Once every month, I go to Har HaBayit, to the Temple Mount.
Yeah, I used to go with you.
Yeah. And on one of the times I went to Har HaBayit, a group of American tourists, very nice people, I think from Texas, by the way, went near me, and their guide recognized me and asked me if I'll be willing to say a few words to them. And I said, yes, why not? And they were very happy. The deputy speaker of the Knesset and so on. So, okay, I was talking to them. Very nice. And we were standing there at the entrance of the Temple Mount. And I told them, just imagine that you are a Russian soldier. The year is 1945, and you just liberated Auschwitz. Okay. And you see this horrific thing in front of your faces. And then I'm coming to you, tapping on your shoulder and saying, do you see this shadows, human, that you can't even call them human beings, walking, the Muslims, the black Muslims that walking around here? These people are going to make Aliyah, going to Eretz Israel, and in 3 years from now, they're going to fight 5 Arab countries and win, and creating a modern state with a nuclear weapon and a modern industry, and be the strongest country in the Middle East. What would you think about me at this moment? You would be sure that I'm a Meshuggah, right? Crazy. I need a doctor, right? But this is exactly what happened. In 1948, just 3 years after, this is exactly what happened. And why? Because this is what's written in the Torah. and our prophets promised us that this is exactly what's going to happen. Now, another thing is written in the Torah, that we're going to build our temple again on the Temple Mount. It's also written. And the chances of creating a Jewish state between 1945 and 1948 were much less than the chances that we will build from now the third temple again.
Mm-hmm.
But just as because of it's written in Torah, that happened, that will happen too. Simple as that. There is a master to history. There is a direction to history, and whatever we're going through, whatever hard it is, we know how the last scene of the movie is going to look like, and it's good. It's very good, and every Jew should wish to be there when it's coming. And there is no other place in the world for a Jew to put his feet on besides the land of Israel. Not in Texas, not anywhere else in the world. Anywhere else you go to your friend in Texas, it doesn't matter. Anti-Semitism will find you wherever you'll be. And even if it will not, if you're not going to come to Israel, your kids, or maximum your grandkids, will not be Jews anymore. So it doesn't matter if you're going to be destroyed physically or spiritually and not be Jew anymore. If you don't want to, if you want to dismiss Judaism, stay in America, stay in Australia. If you want to keep your identity and keep your basic goal as a nation and stick to all the goodness that you represent as part of the chosen people, come to Israel. And we will win. We'll create that leadership. We will win our enemies. We will, and one of the promises, by the way, one of the promises that's written, and we can see how it's happening, by the way, economically. And I'm sure you know that, Rafi, that all the gold in the world, the word has
Zahav Yazuv, right?
Yazuv will float to the land of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the Israeli economy will be the strongest in the world.
So I'll close with a similar thought that for during back in 2020 and 2021, those were very traumatic years for all of us, but for me and my family, it hit very close because I almost got into very big trouble. If God hadn't taken me out and had me do certain smart things that kept me out of prison. Everything's fine with that now, I know. But during the darkest days when I was really despairing, during the second and third lockdowns in 2021 when it got really bad, I noticed that there was one place in the country that wasn't locking down, that was actually opening up, and that was Har HaBayit. It was opening up a little bit, not so much, but just a little bit. It was getting easier to go, and I was there a few weeks ago with my family, and I just noticed that it's more mishudrag, it's more mishuchlal. They're upgrading it, they're making it more comfortable. At least that bridge up to Har HaBayit. Look, there's like a kibud, there's like food there. There's people that are the police are nice to you. Sometimes they let you daven. That itself, that was keeping me together. That was like the only thing that was keeping me from totally breaking apart mentally. That, okay, I see everything's locking down. I see the whole country's lost its mind and we're leading the whole world to hell. But Har HaBayit is opening up. The Temple Mount is opening up. So something is happening. And now something else is happening. And I don't know what's going to be the next thing to happen. I just hope it's relatively quiet, but something's definitely happening here.
I'm sure that God, not sure. No, I know that God has a plan. We don't always understand it, but there is a plan over there, and we should do our best to do what we should do inside that frame of God plan. We should both do, like for example, you know that during this horrific Corona time, I came out all the time with movies, video clips explaining why not to take this. Don't let them inject you with this. And I know that I saved many lives. I know that. People stop me in the streets and thank me. So in every occasion, each one of us should look what is his individual duty during that historical time. So I think at the Corona, that was my duty. And today, my feeling is that my duty is to create that leadership and give this wonderful new generation that we have today in Israel, the leadership, the Jewish leadership that it deserves.
I couldn't agree more. I will be voting for you again. I have voted for you in the past, and I'll be voting for you again. If anyone anyone in the audience wants to help Moshe in his campaign, the links are in the bottom in the description. And thank you so much for taking your time to talk to me. And
Very welcome. It was a pleasure
been
to
a
speak
long
to you.
time. And, yeah, I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.